Hello, everybody. We'll give everybody a minute here and then we'll get started. All right, we'll get started here. So, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar on Effortless Revit MEP, exploring the latest features and training enhancements. So, I will be today's host. My name is Amber, but the amazing Jason Earl will be running through some new improvements and some new enhancements. So with that being said, I'm going to pass it off to Jason.
Thanks, Amber. So welcome in, everybody. My name's Jason Earl. I'm a product manager here at Evolve. And today we're going to talk about some of the latest updates. Amber, if I could, I'll just steal the screen from you. Thank you. All right. So first and foremost, I want to talk about our release process. So we are in the process of releasing version 8.2. That will be the newest release, and that's really what we're going to cover today. Our release process for everybody on the call that has been a longtime lover of Evolve, been using us for years, where we've changed up the release process a little bit, starting with the last release. So let's cover that really quickly here. So our releases on the website you can find in resources and then in downloads. And this is where we have our release. When we go through our release, a marketing email will go out. Typically, we send out an in-app message as well through the Evolve Messages Center in Revit. But as far as where you download that, that will always be here. In the past, what we would do is when a release was ready to be released, we would release it right away, right? So our thinking was, we've worked really hard for a long time on all these new great features. We want to get it out to people as soon as possible. The problem with that has been as we have grown, and especially as we have expanded our educational and training content, it didn't quite make as much sense to push out the release as soon as it was being finished development and it passed QA. So what we've done now is we've switched to kind of a two-tiered release process. What we'll do now is when the release is finished and it's ready to release, we will publish it as a preview release. The preview release is not a beta. You can use it on your production projects. It's a full release. It is past QA, but we hold it back as a preview release to give us time internally to train our customer support and implementation specialists, as well as produce all of the educational and resource content that we need to for the release. So if you are somebody that wants to get the latest release as soon as possible, or if you just want to download it to test it and play around with it and see what's coming out, you can find that on the website. We don't publicly announce when the preview release comes out, but you can always check the downloads, and when it has been released, you'll notice that there's a preview release right here. So I'm going to click on preview release, and you'll be able to find that here. You can download it here, and then we will also have the patch notes. So when we do have the preview release, it will have release notes, but you won't find that supplemental training and educational content that we release with the full release. Now, for the full release, that's typically a month out from when we have the preview release. In this case, it's going to be a little bit less than a month. I think we added the preview release about a week and a half ago. So this is available to download now. if you want to go and check out all the cool new features that I'm about to go over. But once that full release comes out, all of the training content associated with it will be made available as well, and we'll send out the marketing email and the in-app message. So here you have electrical, and here you have mechanical. So you can go and get that today if you'd like. All right, so let's jump into the release itself. Up here, I have the patch notes for both releases. I'm going to try not to go through these one by one. What we're going to do is we're going to kind of cover some of the biggest features that are in here, kind of the real meat and potatoes of the release. And we're not going to focus as much on the smaller ones, but you can come and read through the patch notes if you want to look at those. So let's jump into Revit and let's take a look at what we've got. So you're probably wondering, right, are you covering electrical or mechanical? In the past, a lot of times we'll do separate webinars. Today, I will be covering electrical and mechanical releases. So if you're here for electrical or if you're here for mechanical, if you hear me talk about one or the other, don't fret, I will also get to the other one. Just to let you guys know, at first, I'm going to go over some of the updates that are in both products. We call those core. And then I will cover what is in electrical. No, then I will cover what is in mechanical, excuse me. And then we'll jump back to electrical. So we'll get it all covered here. The first one that I want to talk about is customizing the ribbon. So if you currently use Evolve, you might notice that my ribbon looks a little bit different than what you're used to. That's because we've added the ability to customize your ribbon. Not just customizing what's on your current tab, but actually customizing the entire ribbon. So I can actually add more tabs and I can break up my Evolve buttons any way that I want. So we have in electrical, I think close to 100 buttons. In mechanical, I think it's around 80 something. So especially if you're working on a smaller screen, you might find that the ribbon gets a little crowded. Now that you can customize it, you can kind of spread things out to your own liking or to whatever kind of company standard that you want to set. And you can control what your ribbon looks like. So just kind of jumping into that to show you kind of how you do this. If we look in the settings drop down here, there is a customize ribbon tabs. So if I go and I open this up, I get this nice little window where I can control everything. Over here on the left, I have my tabs. So we can see those. I can name my tabs. I can also specify what order I want them to appear in from left to right up on the ribbon. And then on the right, when I click on a tab over here on the left, I can specify what I want to be in that tab. Within the tab, I select my panel names. So these are kind of the groups. They're called panels. So I have utilities here. So let me jump back to Evolve Electrical and we'll talk about utilities in this one. So within the utilities, normally when you would look at this, you would just see a bunch of icons, right? You wouldn't know necessarily which button is which. But as part of customizing the ribbon, we've given you the ability to use side-by-side layout, which basically means you get text for all your buttons. So your buttons won't kind of group up and kind of fit in the smallest space possible. They'll all have text labeling the button, letting you know what it is. So if you're newer to Evolve, it can make it much easier to find the button that you're looking for. So that right here is the customize ribbon tabs. So now you can kind of make Evolve your own and customize how you get to those buttons on the ribbon. So speaking of customizing how you get to buttons, we've actually added another feature that lets you kind of take all your favorite buttons and put them in one easy way or one easy place to access. And that is the toolbox here. This toolbox is a dockable window. So I can resize it, I can move it, I could put it on another screen, I can dock it here in Revit if I want. If I can get it back where I had it. The coolest, in my opinion, the coolest thing about this toolbox is it's not limited to Evolve buttons. So no shame here. We have opened it up to where you can put any button that you have available in Revit. So you'll notice here I've got like dimensions here. I can create a dimension from my toolbox right here. So I can come in and I can go and I can create a dimension here if I can tab something. I think I put the wrong dimension that I don't normally use. So this may look a little odd, but here we go. There I have a dimension. I can pin things, copy. Whatever button is up on the ribbon in Revit, you can put in here. So I've got conduit over here. So if you're an electrical user and you're not a huge fan of shortcuts, then you'll probably love being able to put your conduit button there. You can also put buttons from other plugins. So if you have other plugins that you use from Evolve, you can also put those buttons in here. So it's kind of like a one-stop shop for all your most commonly used kind of buttons that you go for, maybe ones that you don't have hotkeyed, but you still find yourself using somewhat frequently. If we go into this one, I'll hit the little settings icon here. I can go and I can configure this. You'll notice it looks pretty similar to what I just did with the customized ribbon. But instead of tabs over here, I have groups and I can name those groups. So over here, I've got my favorites and then I've got my quick tools. You can have as many of these groups as you want and you can customize their name. Over on the right here, when I click on a group, I can set up my buttons. And so I can find any button that's in Revit. I can just select what tab it comes from, then which panel. If you're not sure which panel, you may need to go and check and then come back. And then click on your button and select that. So here I have pin. And then if I want, I can either even give it my own custom name. So if you kind of have your own way of calling the buttons, you can even customize those names as well. You can have as many buttons as you want in a group, and then you can have as many groups as you want as well. There may be a limit, but it's probably like 1,000 or something like that. Something kind of crazy that nobody hopefully would ever get to. So here you can customize all of your toolbox. One other thing that I want to point out that we've done as we're going through this, you'll notice we have this help icon. So we've always had that. The help icon will take you to the help site that Evolve has. So we've got this nice documentation that explains what everything is. However, it's text. Not all of us have time to read. Not all of us enjoy spending our time reading, trying to understand things. And then as well, too, this just kind of tells you what the button is. It's, to some degree, it tells you how to use it. But what we've decided to do to supplement that is to add videos for every feature. So you'll notice now beside anywhere you would see a help icon, you'll now also see this kind of film icon. And if we hover over that, it tells me it's going to give me a video summary of the tool. So I can click on that. And now I have a nice video that goes along with that tool. So I now have video training kind of at my fingertips. Evolve also has Evolve University, which is a dedicated learning platform that you can use to get certified with Evolve, that you can just use for kind of supplemental training. But we understand not everybody can take 2, 3, 4 hours out of the day and dedicate to training. So if you're using Evolve and you need really quickly, you need to figure out kind of how this feature works. You've now got those video links available to go and kind of brush up on any feature that you're not familiar with. So those are the ones that I'm going to talk about today that are common to both tools. So now let's jump over to mechanical here. I've got a mechanical model open, and we're going to talk about some of the new features that are in mechanical. After that, we'll switch back to electrical. All right. The first one that I want to talk about in here is going to be our insert offset and quick offset. So if you've used mechanical in the past, you've probably noticed that this button showed up probably about a year ago. Initially, when we added this, this was only for Revit system families. So conduit and electrical, or piping and duct and mechanical. But most of our customers use fabrication parts. So we've gone ahead and updated these tools to work with fabrication parts. So I'm just going to show this one here. So we've got insert offset and connect offset. Connect offset, if you have two separate pieces of pipe or duct, you can offset them together. I can choose an angle here. I can set fallback angles. If there's not enough space, I can pick another angle. So I'll hit OK here. And then I'll just select one set of elements, and then I'm going to select the other set. I can select multiple elements here. So if I have parallel runs, let's add a whole rack of pipes here, I could select all of those at once. I don't have to just do one set at a time. So now I select my other one. It says select elements to connect at a 90-degree angle. And then just another little shout out. When you're using these buttons, you'll also notice you have those video icons as well. So you can always get to that video about the tool. So I'll hit finish here. And now we have our offset. So this is a really nice tool when you're modeling. You can just quickly offset things together. We also have insert offset. So if I have a piece of pipe that's already drawn, but I want to add an offset to it without breaking it apart and moving it, kind of like what I did down below before we started the webinar when I prepared the model, I can actually just insert an offset straight into this piece of pipe. So let me come back here. Whoops. Come back and hit insert offset there. Here I can do all different types of offsets. I can do a vertical offset, a horizontal offset, or what's called a rolling offset. A rolling offset just means that it offsets horizontally and vertically. Since we're in a plan view, I'm going to do horizontal just so we can see that offset. So I've got it at 2 feet, and then I've got my target angle at 90 degrees. I can set that at whatever angle I want. I've got a couple options here depending on how crowded your view is, if you want to keep doing it multiple times, those types of things. So I'll hit OK here. I'm going to select what I want to put an offset to. And then I'm going to click, it says click a point along the run to insert offset. So I'll just click where I want to start my offset. And then it says select the quadrant. So do I want to come over here? Do I want to come up here? Come down to the right or down to the left? So if you just kind of imagine there was like a big target drawn here where I clicked, I just need to pick a corner, and that is where my offset is going to go. So you'll see there, I can very, very quickly insert an offset with just a couple clicks. There's no breaking things apart, doing fill and route or any of that monkey business. I can just add an offset in with 1 or 2 clicks. All right, on to the next tools that we're going to show off. So these tools are in quick tools here. So there is add fitting and add straight. Actually, that is the wrong view for that. So what I'm going to do here is first we're going to do add straight. So I can add a straight. So I'll just click on it, and then I click on the part I want to add a straight to. It just has to have open connectors. So I can click on the part there, and it added a straight to it. I can click on it. Oops, clicked on the wrong part there. Click on it again, and it'll add to the other part there. I can control how long the piece of pipe that it adds on. It just kind of quickly lets me add pieces of straight that I can then work off of when I'm at a fitting. Another tool that we added here, maybe I don't need a straight, maybe I need an elbow. Here, add fitting, we can add an elbow. So I'm going to hit add fitting there. Then I'm going to hit my straight here. And now it's telling me to press space to rotate. So it drew it kind of going up the page. Well, if I don't want it going up the page, maybe I want it going down the page, or maybe I want it facing up. I can do that. And then when I'm done, I just press escape or hit cancel to finish. And then I can keep running that if I want. Whoops. Let me undo that. Whoops. Come back here, space, and add that in. So it looks like it didn't like me choosing another one between there. I'll have to go take a look at that. But here is my fitting that I've added in. We've added some other quick tools as well. These 4 quick tools here that I'm about to talk about, they are in both products. So if you're in electrical, they're in there as well. They're mainly, we created these based off, all of our tools we create based off feedback from people. But these are tools that have been requested by mechanical customers, but they do also have applications in electrical as well. We'll kind of wait and see how people use them, and then we may tune them a little bit to make them a little more useful on the electrical side. But this is why I'm showing them off in the mechanical model. So this first one that we're going to talk about is move and align and extend and align. So extend and align is going to extend over to a face or a line. So I can click over here, and then I can select what I want to align, hit finish, and it will stretch them out and it will align them with it. We also have move and align. So if I want to move these to align them with the end of this piece of duct on the top, I can do that as well. So we can do move and align, select my face over here, and then we can select these and we can go and move them and align them there. So kind of quick everyday tools that, I have my contrived situation here, but as you're working, you kind of find, oh, I got to move this over here, and you find yourself going, well, I need to align and do this one, and then I got to go do the other one, but this lets me do it in bulk, which is really, really nice. All right, the next one here that I want to talk about is move straight along run and move straight to end of run. So this is going to be most commonly used in duct. So let's say that I have this kind of this run along here, right, of this duct. Over here, there's some elbows. Yep, got some elbows there, and we got I think we've got a transition over here. But I've got this kind of straight piece over here. So I've already optimized my pieces. So those are as long as they can get. But I've still got this short piece left over. Now, I'll just throw this out here. We do have a tool that will let you absorb the straight into the transition, but let's say I want to keep this straight because I don't want to make my transition longer. We've said we're going to keep them the way they are. So let's say I want to move this piece over and put it on the other side of the run, or for some reason I want to put my this short piece here over kind of like in here, right? Because you can see here, I'm almost on that strut here for this hanger. But for whatever reason that I want to move it, we have tools that make moving that over a lot easier now. So I can do move straight. We'll do move straight along run. So I already had it selected. So it just says pick a direction to traverse. So now I want to go this way. We can go over, and we notice it keeps going over. And I can bring it back if I want. So it'll just let me move that piece along my run very quickly. And when I'm done, I can just hit escape. Now let's say that I wanted to move it all the way to this end. Instead of me having to click a bunch of times to get there, we can do move straight to end of run. And I'll just click the direction I want to go. And now I have my straight all the way over at this end of my run. So just a quick way to move pieces of duct around through a duct run. You could also use this for piping. This does also have applications in electrical, but a lot of times with pipe and conduit, we're not so concerned where short pieces are along the run, but that is more of a concern with duct. The next tool that I want to show off here is, let's see, where is it again? Align run intersection. This one is primarily created for working with sloped pipe. So I've got a couple pieces of pipe here. So let's say I've got this running, and I've got my slope on here. I've got a 1/2 inch per foot. Over here, I made a copy of it and I rotated it. Now the problem that I have here is I need to connect this into kind of my main here, right? Now the problem is if I go here and I select and I try to do route and fill, and we start here and I do cut into and I select my pipe over here, right? It can't find a route. So what I end up having to do is I have to go into a section view, I start drawing lines. I have to get things aligned here, right? So that takes me a while to do. But now we can do it really in just the click of a button. So what I'm going to do here is do align run intersection. So I'm going to select my stationary run. So in this case, it would be my main or the trunk line. So I'll click that one, and then I'll select the run to align. And now I select that one. And if we come over, that's actually aligned where the center of this one is running into the center of this pipe here. So now that I've done that, if we click our pipe here and I do route and fill, I can select over here. We can cut into our main over here. And now it's got a solution for me. So now I can go ahead and throw that in there, and I've got these connected. So very, very, very handy tool here to have um, if you ever work with sloped pipe, which is, you know, pretty common. Every building is going to have wastewater. All right. So with that, I'm going to jump back over to electrical, and we're going to talk about some of the updates that are specific to electrical. So let's kind of jump back over there. All right. So let's see. So the main ones that we're going to focus on today are enhancements around the conduit run schedule. So I've got my conduit run schedule here. I'm going to open that up. And we're going to take a look at some of the changes that we've made. So one of the things that we did recently was we added a bend angle for conduit runs, right? So if we're doing telecom, especially if it's fiber, we're probably not going to go over 180 degrees. In general, it's just NEC code. For power, we can't go over 360 degrees. So we added the bend angle in to make it easy for you to kind of QA your model and make sure that you weren't violating the maximum bend angle for your conduit run. But what about, how do I tell, if I want it to be 180, or maybe I've said we don't go over 300 at our company because we know if you go over 300, it's really hard to pull, and we don't think it's worth it to run 360 degrees of bend. Well, what we've done now in the options is in your system options, you have an option for maximum bend angle. So I can go here and I can set these for my maximum bend angle, whatever they may be. I can set that there. I don't have telecom in here, but let's just say emergency was 180. I can go ahead and I can set those. And then I also have an error condition highlighting option for bend angle. So I can turn that on and I can set my angle. So now when I have this set, I can go and I can check with the error check, and I can actually just see in my model as I'm working, right? I can come in the conduit run schedule, I can see it there. But I can also just come in as I'm working and I can see if any of my are over my 360 degrees. So yeah, we have a bunch of different ways now to check your angle. You can also use the quick bend total. You can just click on a run as you're working it and you can check it. But if you want to do kind of QA on your model in a larger sense, this is a great way to do that. Coming back in here, the next one that I want to talk about is parallel runs. Parallel runs, if you're running between two pieces of equipment and you got to run, 4, 5, 6 sets of 250, whatever size wire it may be, that's what parallel runs are, if that term's not familiar to anybody. Now, the parallel runs, Evolve generates parallel run IDs. The way that we do it is we use the run ID as a prefix, and then we put a dash, and then we just do it alphabetically. So we just generate A, B, C, D, E, F. Now that's great. You have a parallel run ID, but maybe you don't want to name those that way. Maybe you want to decide what those run IDs are. So in this parallel run number, I can customize what that parallel run ID is. So I can kind of customize this to the way that we name things in my company or in your company, really. But yes, you can customize that now. The last one here I want to talk about with the conduit run schedule. This has been requested for a very long time, and I'm very, very proud to finally announce this, that this is going in. We are adding support for custom columns in the conduit run schedule. So that means if you've been wanting to say what color your conduit run is or some other piece of information about your conduit run, you can now do that. Previously, you were limited to the parameters and columns that Evolve provides, but now you can customize that. So really quickly here, I'm just going to show how you would do that and kind of what that means. So if I have, in my project here, let's go make a parameter real quick. Create a project parameter. So if you were doing this, you would probably use a shared parameter, but I'm just going to use a regular old project parameter. Let's say you wanted to put the color. So my company _ color. and that's going to be text. And I'm going to apply that to conduits, conduit runs, and conduit fittings. So I've got my parameter here, and I want this to apply to my evolve conduit runs. So how do I do this, right? So hit OK here. If I go into the settings, I need to click on the settings. And you'll also notice if you've been using Evolve, we changed the settings dropdown. It's now just a menu. Makes it a lot easier to access, especially if you're on a smaller screen. Your buttons might get cut off at the bottom. That will never happen now because we've got them in this nice little menu. So back to what we were talking about with the custom columns. All I need to do is go to parameter settings, if I can find it. Parameter settings here. We'll open that up. And what this parameter settings lets me do is it lets me add custom columns to grids. So you could always add custom columns to the conduit run schedule ever since we've added this, but they would not apply to the run and they would not work with the import and export. So now that is possible. So I'm going to look for my color here. So I've got that and we've added it to the conduit run schedule. So I can hit apply now here and hit OK. And then let's close out of this. And then let's open the conduit run schedule. And now I can come in here. And if I right click on any of the headers here in the grid, I can hit the column/band chooser. And there is my custom column. So I can double click on it or I can drag it. So now it shows up here. So if you've ever tried to do this before, what you would find is if your run ID was not applied and you put in a color or you put anything in a custom column, it would not hold the information. It wouldn't hold the information because the run ID hadn't been applied. The conduit elements actually held the information. That is no longer the case. It will remember this information, even if you haven't applied the run ID. What this also means is if you start a project and you have custom columns, right? Maybe you have it in your template or maybe you set it up before you get started on a project. When I go to export this to Excel, and I export this, it is going to have my column in that export. And then when I go to import it, it will also import that column as well. So kind of in the nitty gritty details there of custom columns. But I'm just very, very happy to announce that we have custom columns now in the conduit run schedule. So with that is everything that I want to cover today in the webinar. Those are kind of the highlight features of the 8.2 release. Those are certainly not the only features that we've released. With every release, we have a whole slew of kind of little enhancements and little features here and there that kind of overall enhance the effectiveness of the plugins. A lot of those, well, almost all of those enhancements come from people like yourselves that either contact us through support or submit them through the ideas board or have conversations with people on our team. We'll take those and we'll add them into the program. So again, your feedback is invaluable. We could not do this without everybody kind of telling us, you know, what they like, what they don't like, and what they'd like to see us do. So again, these are the patch notes here. Go through and read all of those. Oh yeah, there was one last thing I wanted to mention. In mechanical, anybody that uses mechanical, you're probably used to thinking, you know, Evolve is a fabrication ITM parts plugin. That is not the case. Most of our tools are, yes, were originally intended for those. Today, most of those tools also work with Revit families. Today, I'm proud to announce that we are adding support for Revit system content for piping. So with the 8.2 update, you'll notice if you go into the system families, I'll show that here real quick before we go to the Q&A. We have these RFA pipe types in here. So this is just the start. We're starting out with the most common ones, kind of your standard ones, like your carbon steel, your PVC, your copper, those types of things. And then we will be adding more and more over time. We also have fittings for those as well. Um, so yeah, RFA piping is coming to Evolve. We have a lot of tools that work with it. Um, it's a great time to think about RFA piping if you're currently using fabrication parts. There are pros and cons to both. So lastly, I'll show that here. If anybody on mechanical wants to kind of take a look at that, if you go to the utilities and then you go to system families, you'll see that there are pipe types in here, and then you can go ahead and load those into your project. So check out what we've been working on. We spent a lot of time on getting those created. So we hope that you'll find those useful. So with that, that is everything I have to talk about with the new release. But before everybody goes, if you have any questions about anything we talked about today, or any questions you want to ask about Evolve, I'm going to hand it back over to Amber here, and then we're going to open the floor for Q&A.
All right, thank you, Jason. All right, we'll give a few minutes for everybody, see if there is any questions. And again, if you all have any questions, you can always reach out to us outside of this webinar as well. If something else pops into your mind, a few hours after you kind of reflect on what we all went over today.
Let's see. So Larry has a really good question here about the preview release that I talked about. So he asked, is it easy to overwrite the preview version with the actual version? So the preview version is the actual release. Um, Probably should have spoken that a little bit clearer. So the preview release is just an advanced release of the full version. It is the full version. We're just releasing it ahead of time. The only difference is the kind of the support articles and the Evolve University videos, and then the video links within the product have not been published yet. So it is the same version. That will not change when the full release comes out. It's the same installer. You don't need to install it if you use the preview release.
All right, we'll give it another minute or two here.
Looks like we got one more here. So it says possible that custom columns will come up in later version for piping schedules. Um, that's a great question. For piping schedules, we don't really have like a piping schedule manager. So this was more for like a manager of information. But if you do think that there's a need for like a piping schedule manager, similar to what you saw with Conduit, that actually sounds like something that we're very interested in doing. So I think I have your email. I will reach out to you after this so we can talk a little about that. But yes, you can certainly, with Revit schedules, you can certainly do that. It would just be a matter of adding shared parameters to the project. Let's see. Got a question here that says, how does a large conduit ID file affect the performance of the model? Um, that's a great question. It really doesn't, in the sense that having a large amount of conduit runs itself does not affect the performance of the model at all. Um, what that will mean though is that, probably your model is larger. And then when you want to kind of pull your lengths, it's going to take a little longer to query the model and get those lengths. So, the amount of conduit run IDs that you have in the model will not affect the performance. It's just going to be, you're going to have a larger model probably. And then when you go and query that model to pull your lengths, that will take a little bit longer. But that's just kind of the rules of the road with Revit when it comes to large conduits or large models. All right, Amber, looks like that's all the questions that we've got for today.
Awesome. Well, perfect. With that being said, then that will be kind of the end for today's session. So thank you all so much for joining us for the Effortless Revit MEP. So kind of in short, just some of the new features within our latest release. So I hope you found this really insightful. And thank you again to Jason for running through this. So if you all have any additional questions or need anything else, don't hesitate to reach out to us. And we hope everyone has a great day. Thank you all.